kind of written kind of in the style of a novel. That's how I wrote it, and I just knew I was going to write it at that time. So that's kind of a long answer, but and kind of winding, but I hope that is kind of explanatory of the process and the experience of writing that book, you know?
Absolutely. And you said 5 to 6 weeks for writing a book, that's really very fast. And that's where I feel the energy of you having the divine timing, all that life prep, everything that you've done to that point. To me, it's like it was divine timing, Mark, whether or not you shoulda, coulda, woulda. It was like that point, the shutdowns and everything. And when you got into that space, and we'll talk about this a bit with faith, we're talking about God, or we're talking about God and faith, really. And you had
Right,
the
right.
time to sit down and allow that to come through you. And you having said that to me, 5 or 6 weeks is such a small, at the tip of the iceberg, but it's all the life prep that got you to that point. And that's the beautiful thing. And part of you also in the book, you were mentioning guardian angels because your mother also passed away. She then knew you were writing the book, but she never actually got to see it published. Is that right? And you said you still feel the presence of guardian angels guiding you and your family. And even though your parents are now passed over, you still feel that connection to them and the presence of angels, and you have that hope.
Yeah, I really do, and that's kind of the intention of the book. I mean, it's a love song to St. Paul, the city of St. Paul, with a nod to Minneapolis, because you know, I call myself the product of a mixed marriage because dad's from St. Paul, mom's from Minneapolis, but uh, and it's also written for America and the world, but for America in particular, and because we're still kind of stabilizing ourselves from that time, and we're still fighting with each other a lot right now. But it's meant to, I have a certain worldview with this particular book. I spent a lot of time in my 20s to mid 30s when I worked in the Native American Indian community. I was you could say I was what they call being on the red road. I was actually uh, going to uh, Lakota ceremonies, sweat lodges, and the Sundance in South Dakota, both in the Rosebud and the Pine Ridge reservations. And I really took to heart the embrace of um, my friends among that community, and I looked for what was similar with my background, which was the Catholic faith. And there's historically a conflicting, a clashing kind of experience that the two different backgrounds have with each other, to say the least. And uh, so when I tell this story, I'm expressing a view of faith, and I'm expressing ultimately the Catholic faith. I mean, I really re-embraced it at a certain point working in that community, and I was never discouraged from that by my friends in the Native community, and I was also never, pressured to follow their way. I was just expected to be respectful of it. Um, but my point of telling the story is to give my worldview, and not everyone's going to necessarily share my worldview, but my observations. But I wrote it in a way which I really hope, and I believe I achieved that the reader walks away feeling respected, and also walks away with uh, encouragement and hope. And ultimately, that's what the book is about, is hope.
It
So,
struck me too that your service, so you now also coach people in boxing, and you have been on this path of wanting to share and I guess in a way inspire and uplift people. You said about the it's about time. You used to use it almost as a joke, sort of a loving joke to your friends whenever they
yeah.
came with good news, your response would be, it's about time. And I feel that there's something about in serving our community and serving other people, we're also serving God. And there's something about being devoted to your path of wanting to add value back and connect to other people, even if they come from different backgrounds, as you've just said with the Lakota, still accepting you. And in the book, you talked about the Christ in all that you've been able to find looking at these different traditions, that energy of Christ consciousness of what Jesus was here to teach us is really within all of these paths. And I said to you in email, our dialogue, that I believe I work with the energy and I like the Indian saints and sages Ramakrishna, Yogananda, and they were two who were back in the 1800s, early 1800s, early 1900s, who were Indian sages who still connected to the Christ light and said it's all the one thing, that God path, so can we all drop our differences and come into this energy of harmony, community, higher unconditional love and frequency?
Yeah, well, I think that I mentioned at the time that I wrote this book, he was the auxiliary bishop of uh, Los Angeles, but now he's in Minnesota. He's bishop of Winona, Rochester, Minnesota, the priest named Father Robert Barron, and he says that as Catholics that our approach is to find the truth that we see in other cultures. Our approach to other cultures is to find the truth we see in other cultures and identify it and say, okay, we agree with that, and then point to what we see as ultimately the totality of the truth. And so I think that oh, well, the light came back on. So I think that we I think that we have to respect our differences
Mm.
and understand that there are differences. They're not that some traditions, some faiths, they're not actually the same thing, but um, the fact that people are uh, seeking the truth and trying to find what it is the one thing that we hold in common.
Many paths to one truth. It struck me that in your book too, you were talking about doing boxing as a child, and you said at age 10, where you were living, you actually had the sun coming in your window from the easterly direction. You could see it rising.
Yes,
And
yes,
that tied in with the title of the book, that the idea of the directions, the four directions, if you're talking about Native American
right,
wisdom,
right.
and that East is that inspiration and that sort of energy to begin something. And I thought, as a 10-year-old, for you noticing that, everyone's on their path and doing different journeys in different ways, but it's so fascinating to hear what sparks something in us and where we take that through our whole life, because then you've joined in with the Native American wisdom there, and you're able to find, as you say, there's all the similarities, but there's differences. But if we can accept the differences, I think we can find more common ground. So I actually wanted to
Right.
ask you how you felt about how you feel you're a pillar of hope, and how you like to encourage people and what your journey has been, even in your challenges, how you stay strong enough to be that beacon for the people around you in your community or your loved ones.
Well, I'd say that my being a pillar of hope, I think it just comes from the trust that I have. Um, I I just believe that there is a God. I believe that that we are being guided in one way or another. And my family always taught me about, I remember particularly my paternal grandmother always telling me about guardian, remember that you have a guardian angel. And I remember the nuns in the Catholic school that I went to in grade school, um, especially Sister Dennis in first grade. She said, "Remember that you all have a guardian angel." And I look at different things that happened in my life and different things that kept me from. I was trying to go out to New York to pursue writing and be a boxing trainer out there. And I was going to make the move 3 or 4 times, and I was going to make the move. Right the year before my father had died, I'd just been out there making connections and everything. And I was trying to get myself arranged and organized to go and do that when my father died. And I mean, I think there were a couple other things that happened that could have brought me away from home. And I think the fact that I was there when my father died, and I was there, although this is not in the book, I was there when my mother died. Um, it's when I look at how a lot of things didn't work out, a lot of plans didn't work out, I think that that actually is guardian angels, watching over me and watching over the other people in my life, so that I can be in the place and that I'm supposed to be, uh, just to do what I'm supposed to do. And it's like a lot of things didn't work out today, actually. And I'm sitting in a different room than I was planning on sitting in to talk to you, and so. Uh,
Yeah.
yes. Some things are just beyond our control, you know.
Absolutely. I think the more we can surrender to those, because the human part of our mind just thinks, oh no, everything will be this way and want it to look a certain way. But that's true when you are following, you want to say spirit or God or guidance. There is a very specific path for each soul, is what I feel. There's all potentiality, and yet it is a bit like the guardian angel shutting the door and sort of it's with a loving essence for you to show you where you need to go. Because quite often, with our thinking, logical mind, we don't know. We don't know how these connections happen. And reading you talking about feeling you had always been guided, we look back retrospectively and talking about the
Right.
guardian angels. Yeah, I hope that that helps people to understand that when things look like they're